It's been a little bit, guys. It has been a tad bit of length since I've done one of these live streams. As always, if you guys got questions, I think we are successfully streaming both to YouTube and X. Also, McCowstars.com. That's the main website. That's where I recommend everyone go to check out where the podcast is. Otherwise, where you are, you're listening, and I appreciate you tuning in. So yeah, it's been a little bit. I wanted to just, before we get into the show, the episode, I want to kind of just give some, talking about what's been kind of going on in my personal life. I've been kind of going through some shit. I'm not gonna lie. It's been kind of a depressing week. Don't want to make this a big thing, but we did put down our oldest dog child, Bambi. For those of you who've been watching the podcast for a while, or those who have been part of it, may have seen her in the background or heard her in the background giving a little bark. But that was something that we did this last weekend. And, I think putting down an animal is always one of the worst experiences ever. A lot of tears. I feel like with the dog, I feel like dogs and pets know more than you think they do. But there's something about like putting down a pet where you can't like talk to them. You can't like explain to them what's going on necessarily. It's kind of just like this weird connection, right? And then, this was a situation where this dog had been like for the last 6 months, just kind of bouncing back and forth. Like, we had been constantly questioning, like, is it time? Is it not time? And it was just really obvious that it was the time. So there's something kind of oddly relieving in it where you're like, you care about this animal and the fact that you're able to but you're able to take that pain away. There's something that's kind of relieving in that, but it's also really sad. A member of your family is gone, and it's really rough to get through. But if you thought that was sad, just wait, it gets worse. No. So the first thing I wanted to talk about today, because I think, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world and we will touch upon it. But like I always say with this podcast, I really want to be a voice for Iowa local things going on, right? I didn't really say that right. Whatever. You know what I'm saying. And one of the main things that this is more kind of last week's news, but like I said, I'm kind of playing catch up here. So, what are the buttons again? This button. So, where'd my mouse go? In central Iowa, there have restrictions have been put in place due to what appears to be nitrate levels, high nitrate levels that are affecting the quality of the water, and just kind of there's just from what I understand, the processing of the water is behind, like the filtration and the processing of the water is behind, so there's a shortage and it's affecting ability to water. So it says right here, any residential or commercial customer observed by Central Iowa Waterworks or a member agency watering their lawn will be notified of the violation. If lawn watering does not cease, water service could be disconnected. So that's like a really, scary thing too, right? Like, you can look at this and say like, oh, hey, like, they're just doing this to help everyone, right? But like because you want to water your lawn, having your water shut off, I don't really think that's justified. For me being an anarchist or even like a libertarian-esque person, right? Like, so here, let's look at this other article. Actually, I think this article is probably better. If I can even find it. Why can't I water my lawn? This is from the Des Moines Register. What we know about Central Iowa Waterworks watering ban. The Des Moines Metro is under its first ever lawn watering ban, and residents may have questions on how this applies to them. Central Iowa Waterworks, the Des Moines region's water authority, on June 12 banned its 600,000 commercial and residential customers from watering their lawns, effective immediately until further notice, as high levels of nitrate pollutants in the Raccoon and Des Moines rivers threaten to outstrip its treatment capabilities. And like we said before, customers who repeatedly violate the ban could lose their water service. So here's the thing. Jeez, I'm all over the place here. In my mind, and a lot of people are going to disagree with this, per usual, but in my mind, there's no reason that the citizens of Iowa, the citizens of Central Iowa, should have to pay penalties to the point where you may lose your water service. Because of the state's fuck up. And look, people can say, well, it's the farmers that are polluting the water, and that's what really. And I'm not saying that that's invalid. I'm not saying that those people, there shouldn't be any blame put on those people either. But there's something about the idea that, because you're not telling me that this information could not have been released sooner. There's obviously some kind of corruption with the state and the agricultural industry that has created this smokescreen that, like, okay, now we're not going to notify the citizens until it's DEFCON 5 or DEFCON 9 or whatever number you want to put. DEFCON 666, whatever, right? Like, you're not telling me, there's no way you can tell me that there was a way for Iowans to be aware of this issue before this. And the only reason that would be the case is if the media and the agricultural industry and the water industry were not so captured by government. And I see a lot of people, blaming farmers and agricultures. And like I said, it's not like they're not to blame. But I think here's the thing. I think if you had these rivers, Raccoon River, the Des Moines River, if these were not public entities, if these were not even as an entirety, but like sectioned off, if these were privatized things, then a lot of those problems would solve itself. You would have individual companies, individual businesses. If Farmer Bob was polluting Jack's section of the river, he could buy his own filtration system, which in a free market would be cheaper than using taxpayer dollars. B, he could individually contact certain media outlets. He himself could go on social media and post about this, say, hey, this industry, this farmer, whatever, is polluting my water supply, which is then affecting everybody, essentially, right? My point is, more people would be held accountable. You would have more players in the game, more competing markets and individuals and companies and whatever that would spar off and would be held accountable. The problem is when you have multiple different businesses, or not, I should say multiple different businesses. When you have the opposite of that, when you have everything owned by the government, it is on one entity only to rely on to let the people know. And the thing is, there's no accountability for the government. They could have even let it go past this point. They could have even said, hey, we're not even going to let people know. We're just gonna let, have fucking like Flint, Michigan, right? Just have the water levels get filthier and filthier, and even poison the citizens. I mean, let's not even talk about the nitrate levels for a minute. Like, let's just talk about like the amount of drugs that are put in the water system, right? Like, you can blame individuals for polluting this, but it's like, okay, so what would be a logical thing to point out then, right? Like, hey, maybe if it was privatized, maybe if these entire bodies of water were not all water, the media, like if they were not all shielded by the government, then the problem would solve itself. Not perfectly. Nothing's perfect. Nothing's a utopia, but it would be far better. You know, we had Jason Bonnell on the podcast recently. Great guy, great episode. But one of the things that I've been thinking about from the episode is he talked about how, I don't remember exactly what the conversation was, but he's like, you can't really blame the state for that. And I've been thinking about that a lot, and I just fundamentally disagree. Because the state is what has no accountability. Zero accountability. And you can say, well, we can vote people out or in every 1, 2, 4 years. But like, come on, man. Like if you have a business that's fucking up, you know when the accountability ends? Like immediately. You have the customers say, hey, I'm not purchasing water from you. I'm not going to like continue to, like, I'm going to protest this. I'm going to make sure that I get my business, my water revenue, whatever, from somewhere else. Like, there's direct accountability there. When you have the state intervene, there's no accountability. There's a government official that says, sorry, this is what you have to do. This is what everybody has to do. And if you don't do it, we will turn off your water. You will no longer have water if you let your front lawn go to shit because we fucked up and we didn't tell you in a good enough amount of time because we're so corrupt. Like, I can't understand why people think the answer to that is we need more government. Makes no sense to me. Anyways, I didn't even really want to talk about this that long because it's just kind of a reality at this point. But anyways, let's talk about the thing I really wanted to discuss today. This I found this. Let's see if I can even zoom this. I found this incredibly disturbing. This was something, I was watching my fiance's TikToks and this just came up on her TikTok, or this was something that she wanted to show me. And I was like, holy shit, like I have to talk about this in the podcast. So I believe in Louisa County. I don't know what the town is. I guess we'll figure it out. But 88 children were removed from a rehabilitation camp near Fredonia and in Columbus Junction, according to the Louisa. I want to say Louisiana, but it's not. Louisa County Sheriff's Office. Officials state that on June 12th and 13th, the Safeguard Children Protective Custody Operation and search warrants were executed at 2 locations, the Kingdom Ministry of Rehabilitation and the Shekinah Glory Camp. The operation was conducted due to reports of child abuse and endangerment. The collaborating agencies removed 88 children who were attendees. They were taken to the Wapello Methodist Church to meet with multiple child protective workers and provide to their parents. Iowa Department of Health and Human Services and temporary foster care were also involved to ensure the safety of these involved. They could safely return to parents and guardians. The investigation is listed as ongoing. According to the website, the Kingdom Ministry of Rehabilitation and Recreation was founded in 2018. It offers a summer camp June 8th through 29th. The Facebook page states it's a 21-day camping event that will include worship, teaching, activities for all ages, led by Victoria Camp Ministry USA. I'll say this. I will say this. As much shit as I talk about the government, you have to acknowledge when it does the right thing. And, in something like a state like Iowa that is predominantly religious, where so many religious people are more willing to look the other way in this kind of stuff than to actually grapple with the fact that, oh, hey, maybe what I believe in is actually negatively contributing to this kind of stuff. I think they did the right thing, right? Breaking this up and being like, okay, we need to so I don't even know if this article really got into it. There's a video that we can watch too, but there was a 14, 15-year-old kid from Texas. And this is the thing. This isn't even all Iowa kids. This is like kids from around the United States come to this thing. And there was an accusation of abuse. I don't remember if it was specifically sexual or if it was abuse and neglect, I think, were the things. And here's the thing. I find so many, like, talking to so many people who are religious, they will always criticize the Catholic Church, right? They'll be like, oh, these Catholics, so many Catholics. And they're not wrong, right? Like, it's not like an inaccurate thing to criticize. But they, like, also inadvertently, like, take the blame off themselves. They're like, but the Protestants, but the Reformed, but, like, the Lutheran. We don't do that. The thing is, in every religious institution, the same as the government, it creates a shield. It creates a shield where, hey, we can operate in these really dark corners and these really malicious spaces and do these really malicious things to children, and people won't question it because there's such a positive glow and such a positive guy. It's like, oh, we're a rehabilitation. And that's the weird thing too. It's like, why is a rehabilitation center like mixed in with a like church camp? It doesn't really make a lot of sense at face value, but like, it's just, it's a really weird thing. And I wanted to tell this story, kind of relating to, and we'll watch the news clip, because I think that is also really revealing, the interview they did with the people who were running it, but or people that were involved anyways. But when I was growing up, I grew up in a small town, Orange City, Iowa, Northwest Iowa, heavily religious, and a lot of people that I went to school with went to events like this. I didn't ever go to anything like a camp, but I did like go on a couple church trips. And I'll just say that like I didn't have the best time, which, look at me. I mean, like, that's not, he could probably guess, right? But I remember there was one camp specifically that like almost all of my friends went to. And it was this really weird thing where like you weren't allowed to tell anybody what happened at the thing. And it was like a week-long thing, or like a weekend-long thing. And like it was really weird. I would like ask all of them, I'm like, okay, I'm never going to go to this thing. I'm never going to tell anybody. Like, what happened? Just tell me. And their lips were sealed. They could not tell me. They were like, nope, we can't say it. We can't say it. We can't say what happened at this. And I literally made the joke. So I was like, are you guys like sacrificing virgins? Like, what the hell are you like? What the fuck are y'all doing out there that you can't talk about? Who knows? It was probably something benign, right? But this is why I titled the episode like I did. It's like Iowa, the religion of Iowa. And I mean, maybe not even Iowa. I'm sure this is just the case across America. But I'm just basing this off my personal experience. Like, there's something just really weird about Christianity in Iowa that creates these barriers, that like creates these like, oh, like I said, like a shield, like, oh, hey, they're just going to Christian camp. Like, nothing bad could ever happen here, right? Like, it's all about Jesus. It's all about God. They're a rehabilitation center. They help people. Nothing malicious could ever happen from that. And then what happens at some point every time? And look, I think there's a reason for this, right? Like, the people who are fucking creeps, the people who do want to prey on your kids, who do want to do really awful, malicious things to your kids, this is a fucking, like, this is candy. Like, oh, hey, I can just, like, I doubt that there is much effort put into, these organizations are so desperate for people that they'll, like, take literally anyone to fucking, fill the staff that is needed to, like, watch these kids, right? And it'll just be like, what? Like, it's just kind of a free for all. Like, oh, we found this guy named Jim, and Jim seems really cool. He's been part of the church for however long, and yeah, we'll just throw him off. Like, you're telling me that these organizations do background checks or I highly doubt it. Highly doubt it. Maybe I'm wrong, but based on my personal experience, when I went to these or was around these types of events organizations, they were not doing background checks. They were like, oh, hey, Jim goes to church. Jane is also a member. Like, we'll just have them on and we'll just watch the kids, right? It's a trust system, and that can be it can just be really problematic when you're just operating literally on faith. Like, and it's just like when you operate in these voids, like, this is bound to happen at some point. And yeah, I know this also happens in the school system, and I know this also happens other places, but there's just something particularly about religion that I just find really creepy. There's something about like the obsession with like, hey, we need to like get children at a certain age so we can bring them into our club, right? Like there's actually I read this book by Jonathan Haidt called The Righteous Mind. And in that book, he describes how children don't really develop a moral compass until the age of 5. And the first 5 years of their upbringing is pivotal in their viewpoints, their philosophies, whether they're religious or not, right? I think that's part of why I'm an atheist, because my family didn't start going to church until I was like 7 or 8. So like, and like in my family particularly, me and my older sister, I haven't talked to her in a while, so, but last time I heard, not religious. And then my 2 younger siblings who went to start going to church, before the age of 5, religious. And I don't think that's an accident. And so, I mean, that is like in real time, me seeing like, oh, this theory makes sense. So, I mean, there's a reason why people start this shit out really young, where they're like, oh, take your kids to church, take your kids to Sunday school, take your kids to these events. And, it's always like, this is like the one, I mean, despite like the obvious like pedophilia and fucked up shit about the Catholic Church, right? Is like, the Catholics at least were like, hey, we're not, at least where I grew up, they're like, hey, we're not here to have fun. We're here to learn about Jesus, right? And there's something that's like almost more sinister in my mind about like, oh, hey, we're going to have Sunday school. We're going to give you candy and treats, and we're going to watch movies, and we're going to do all this stuff. And we're also going to teach you about Jesus. It's almost like a more like alluring thing, right? And it's just too easy for me to understand and to rationalize. Like, there's like a really evil, malicious person like reeling the fishing pole back, right? It's like, hey, come on. It's just too easy. It's too easy for like some fucking creep to be involved in this shit. Anyway, let's watch this clip here, because I thought this was like really, I just thought this was like incredibly revealing. Get through the ad. Fucking 10 seconds of ad. Oh, I can skip it.
Isaac County Sheriff's Office says nearly 90 children are in protective custody after reports of child abuse and child endangerment at a religious camp. The Sheriff's Office says several local and state law enforcement agencies responded to 2 properties in the Columbus Junction area
and like,
last week.
Look at this place,
Leaders
too.
with a religious group who run the camp.
Like, doesn't this place just look like kind of weird? Kind of a weird place to just like bring like just some I mean, I guess this is like what you get in Iowa, but like, I don't know, man. I always envisioned like it would be like an actual fucking event center or something like that. There's just something weird at surface level where it's like, okay, this is the place. Like like basically plains with like some sheds and like trees. Like they're probably just all in tents or something, right? Like, yeah, there's just too many. I don't know, man, it's a little weird. Look, here's the thing. I bet if most of these kids' parents had actually like been there, a lot of them would raise some eyebrows. In 2025, it would have been like, okay. And a lot of them, like, it's, I guess the one kid was able to call, so maybe this isn't the case, but like, when I was growing up, at least, like, I feel like cell phones were very much like, if not prohibited, they were like very like, anti cell phones, right? So I mean, you're kind of taking the accountability off the counselors and the people who run it in that sense, right? Like, you're not giving kids an ability to access. Like I said, obviously the kid was able to call, so that's good. And look, like I said, it's really good that the Department of Human Health Services and the local police or whoever, I'm really glad that they responded to this and pulled people out of this situation. Like, there was obviously some, and we'll just play the rest of the clip because there's one part of this clip that I find really revealing.
The Ministry of Rehab and Recreation and the Shekinah Glory Camp say it's a camp for Christian teenagers from all over the country. One of the camp's leaders says a 15-year-old from Texas called authorities because he didn't want to be there. He said no children were ever in danger.
No, we never harmed that child. We loved him. We bought him shoes. We bought him, we bought him shoes. We bought him like $400 shoes, clothing, everything.
I don't know, man. Why? You floating in money? Look, not to be that guy. Not to be a little racist, but like, we're not even racist. Just at face. You think that guy just has like $400 lying around where he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna give this. Also, $400 pair of shoes. I don't think I've ever gone to a store and been like, especially in Iowa, gone to a store and been like, oh hey, $400 for shoes. Yeah, that makes sense. So look, I mean, this is similar to like, this is similar to like when you have a business that like has like, you know, costs and expenses that are like way higher than they should be, right? Usually it implies that there's some, if not illicit, some shady things going on. Look, I'm just assuming here. I don't know the facts. This is something that's still ongoing and they're still investigating. But if I were to bet, or if I were to gamble on this, if I were to like cast my assertions, something really malicious happened to this kid. And in order to contain the situation, they were like, let's give this kid let's pay him off. Right. And again, not that I think that anybody should be taxed, but there is something that I will always point to in kind of to offer an olive branch to like that side of the aisle. Like, these churches don't pay taxes. So, I mean, they do ultimately have more money in their pocket than any business or any, maybe not government association, but like at the very least, like any business. Unless they're like some like corporate conglomerate thing, right? Like any regular old Joe business is going to have a much harder time having these kind of funds and competing this kind of way versus someone like this. So I just found that like extremely revealing. I was like, what the like kind of the guy in the TikToker that was like kind of revealing all this kind of said this too. It's like this is the guy that you had talked to again, not trying to be racist or anything, but it's like you really couldn't like find someone better in Iowa to speak to the news. Like, that kind of raises an eyebrow too. Like, what, the people who really run it, like they don't want to talk to someone either. It's just fishy. And I guess my point with all this is like, to wrap this up, like, people need to like question the actions of churches more. Don't just send your kid to a fucking camp because it's affiliated to Christianity. Please don't. Look, I went to camp. I never had any kind of molestation or abuse happen to me. I never heard of that happening. I know that the people who ran it were pretty heavily religious, but besides, I mean, not even. So there was a thing, like a saying at the camp that went, I'm third. And the idea was God first, others second, I'm third. But they specifically said, they were like, God doesn't even necessarily need to mean a higher power. It can just be your values. So, I mean, it was pretty, like, it was not at all like a religious camp. It was very much like the focus was like boys growing up to be men. And look, there's something really positive in that, right? Like, but that was that was more of like a business-esque option. That wasn't affiliated with the church. That was like these guys had a business that had like you had to pay a certain fee, and it wasn't cheap. It definitely wasn't cheap, but like you had to pay a certain fee to bring your kid there, and like, but like that's also something. I mean, I'm sure that these parents of these kids had to pay some fee for that camp as well. Who knows? They'll probably never get refunded. I would be shocked if any of these kids' parents got refunded for this, right? You know, like, but I feel like in a business model there is some like we were talking about with the river, right? There is some kind of accountability there. When you have like the guise of religion, there's no accountability. I guarantee you, I don't even want to guarantee. Maybe they will actually rightfully investigate into this, and people will actually be revealed as being perpetrators or whatever, which is what has been speculated. But look, I also wouldn't be surprised if it went the other way, where they did this investigation and they just, nothing happened. Nothing happened. You know why? Because this state is so entrenched in religion, so entrenched in Christianity, that there just isn't really a motivation. Another story, where I grew up, I went to a public school in middle school and high school growing up there. And there were several, and I won't say the school, but there were several occasions where there was a clear breach of separation of church and state. But it didn't matter. I mean, I literally myself protested it and found other people who protested it. Not getting in the street with a sign, right? But just in the open being this is fucked up, right? But it did not matter, because if you have 50, 60, 80, 90% of the community all on the same page, they all go to the same churches, they all have the same belief system, nobody's going to take it seriously. They're all going to look the other way. It's not going to matter. Nobody's going to speak up. And the people who do speak up, they're going to be so small that it's just easier to look the other way. It's like that video. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that video where this is a Protestant, Lutheran, whatever church service. And a woman gets up, literally the service stops. And this woman is accusing the pastor of molesting her, of abusing her sexually. And the pastor's silent. Everyone's silent. And then she kind of does this for a few minutes. And then eventually the, not security, but the people who are there, right? Essentially security. They're basically security. And they ended up escorting her out. And then the service just resumes. Nothing happened. Everyone just starts singing the hymns. Everybody, nobody walks out. It's such a disturbing scene. And I think I won't even say necessary religion. I think that just kind of speaks to human nature as well. But again, I think when you have a business type of setting, there's more accountability in that. When you have something that's government oriented or religious oriented, the accountability becomes smaller and farther and fewer in between. That's a real problem. Okay, enough about that. Before we wrap up, I want to talk a little bit about the conflict in Iran. Just kind of I'm not really, I have been paying attention to some things about it. I'm not super versed in what's going on. I know Tel Aviv got in, this is even I could be wrong in all this, but from what I understand, Tel Aviv did get attacked by Israel. Iran's also been sending missiles to Israel. Nihan, I believe it is. I saw a clip where the streets were just packed full of cars, people exiting Nihan because, or I'm probably not even saying that right, because Trump did a True Social post telling everybody to get the fuck out, right? And, I was talking to someone today, and they were just some guy at my job, and he was like, yeah, I really hope the U.S. doesn't get involved. I'm like, the U.S. doesn't get involved? we're past that point, okay? Even if you want to ignore the fact that we have sent troops to Israel, at the very least, it's a proxy war. At the very least, Israel is using our money and our weapons to conduct this war. So, like, you know, we're basically involved in that. I know Tucker Carlson, Ted Cruz had an exchange today. I haven't gotten a chance to watch the whole thing, but I've seen some clips, and that's just kind of very revealing. Look, like I said, I don't really think I'm going to spend that much time on this podcast focusing on that issue specifically, because maybe if like something really crazy happens, I'll speak on it again. But like, well, I try to focus on more what's going on here. And I think there's only so much good that can be done. You know, talking like going off on all that or whatever, right? Like, I mean, I guess that kind of contradicts what I say with like putting your voice out. So I shouldn't say that. Look at me catching myself in bullshit, right? No, but I think I could have a voice in that, and that could be impactful. But I'd rather just choose to focus on what's happening locally or like, you know, the community, right? And although our tax dollars, you know, are affected by this, and although this could have implications for a draft or some kind of involvement, which I find really unlikely. I was telling someone today, I'm like, you know, we can fucking bomb one of these countries with an Xbox controller. Like, I just don't see the real, like I just don't see a real possibility in us getting drafted just because there's no use of it. And like, even if they did, there'd be so many people to object to that. Be like, what? You could like drone bomb fucking Afghanistan for all these years, but now you need to like deploy all these troops and have a draft like that. Like, we haven't had a draft in forever, and there's a reason for that. Is because it's very unpopular. But look, I mean, obviously, I'm against violence. I'm against war. It's bad all around. It's terrible that this has happened. It's terrible that Israel has this conflict. And for like the same talking point that they've had forever, which is like, Iran has nukes. Iran is this close to, like, I've been hearing that since I was a child. I'm almost 30, motherfucker. Like, I've been on this earth for a minute. I've been hearing that for a long ass time, how close Iran is to having nukes. And look, here's the thing. Even if Iran has, which from what I can understand is not the case, but let's just say it is. Let's just, for the sake of argument, say Iran has some kind of nuclear capability or some kind of iridium or whatever the stockpile for that nuclear thing is, right? You can use nuclear for energy. Like, nuclear power has more than one purpose. People forget about that. When people hear nuclear, they just think about atomic bombs and like people turning into like green zombies because they're get radiation poisoning, right? But like, there's actually like a very sensible, like really sensible and really like cost-effective use for nuclear. You know, like, despite, like, you know, you could always point to like Chernobyl or like, you know, any of these catastrophes that have happened with nuclear. I mean, if handled properly, nuclear is actually way better for the planet than something like fossil fuels. The evidence is pretty clear in my mind. I didn't pull anything up. I suck. No, but I mean, regardless, I mean, let's say I'm full of shit. Like, they should have a right to be able to explore that, to be able to have nuclear capabilities. There's no reason why other countries should be able to impose and to say, you can't have this. Look, I mean, yes, I've definitely seen some things where Iran has had some pretty scary rhetoric about the United States and Israel and, like, you know, wanting to do that. But, like, you have to ask yourself, why is that the case? It's like with Gaza. Like, yeah, of course people in Gaza and Palestine are going to be fucking pissed and be saying awful things about, like, Israel and the U.S., like, wanting to go fuck them up because we've been fucking them up for decades. It's like, yeah, no shit. If you're like, it's like this example, right? If you have the kid who's getting bullied like every day after school, some big kid on the block comes and starts punching him in the face. He has to deal with that every day, every single fucking day. And then at the end of the school year, the kid who's been getting punched brings a gun and shoots him. It'd be really easy for him to be like, oh my God, that kid shot that other kid. It was like the thing with Columbine, right? Like they automatically just like put like the person who did the shooting is really the aggressor. And that's not necessarily like false. Like in that scenario, like, yes, the kid like that kid shouldn't shoot that other kid, right? Like that's not right. But it's understandable. It's a lot different from the bully coming in and just shooting the kid. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're two completely different scenarios. And like everything with government, like everything with these world conflicts, it's really easy to just pick a point in history and just say, from here on, this is the story. And look, it's really, and this is like another thing, like it's really shocking to me. Like when I opened up Twitter, when all this stuff was going down, all the politicians saying, we stand with Israel, pray for Israel. They literally sound, I mean, it was literally like that clip where, back in like the COVID times where every single mainstream, or not even mainstream, like every single news station like had the same line where it's like talking about misinformation, how dangerous it is on social media and stuff. It was literally that. It was like that 2.0. Just everybody be like, we stand with Israel, pray for Israel. Israel launched missiles at Iran. Look, when 9/11 happened, I mean, that wasn't really an accurate portrayal either, because like the U.S., you know, we had the Gulf War and like the U.S. was still like, you know, fucking over people in the Middle East, right? So 9/11 was a retaliation in that sense. But like at least then, like from a media standpoint, you could see like, oh, like the U.S. got attacked. Like the Twin Towers came down. Like this is a very visual, very clear thing where it's like, oh, on U.S. soil, we've been attacked. Okay, we need to respond and we need to go do that. Again, still not an accurate way to look at it, but like at face value, you could see, okay, that I can wrap my head around that. Why at least people would think like that, right? This isn't even like that. I mean, I think Dave Smith put this really well, like how this is like Pearl Harbor essentially. This is like the Japanese attacking Pearl Harbor, and then everybody's like, we pray for Japan. Like, dude, motherfucker, they're the ones that attacked them. What are you talking about? And they've been the ones that have been dominating them for all these years. The 7 wars in 5 years thing, right? Like we've talked about that plenty on the Unhinged podcast, right? So, and I don't need to get into that whole thing, but like, look, in my mind, I think this is just simply wrong. It's wrong that, you know, the U.S., and people want to say it's just Israel, it's the U.S. too. It's wrong that we're involved in this. It's wrong that we're going this way. Super disappointing for Donald Trump. Not like, I mean, I voted for him back in 2016 when I was young and dumb. I regretted it immediately when he went into office, and I never looked back. I've never supported the guy since. I think since then I maybe have been able to acknowledge, like, yeah, he did some things well, like better than what would have happened otherwise. But this is just terrible. I think this is really, it's really going to be interesting to see if this is really going to be the time where people finally acknowledge, like, this is why we need something like a separation of the state. Like, why we need to just disengage from the state. Michael Mouse talks about, like, the Great Divorce. Like, we just need to acknowledge that the state isn't legitimate. That they don't have our interests at heart. Doesn't matter if you vote. Voting doesn't do shit. Whoever you vote in, whoever you get in, they're just gonna do what is in the interest of the of the federal government, of the deep state. Like, that's what's going to happen. Your vote doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It can be guy A, guy B, guy C, guy D, lady E, tranny F. I shouldn't say that word. It doesn't matter who. It doesn't matter who the fuck it is. Like, when they get into that position, it's like it's not Carlin. Who's the guy? I can't think of it. Some comedian has this bit where, like, they go back into it. Like, they take the presidential elect, they take him back into a room, and then they show him the other angle of JFK. And then the guy turns to him and says, okay, what do I do next? Like, look, I'm telling you, like, if it's like with Kash Patel, right? Like, if you go into the deep state and then they do whatever, they threaten your family, they threaten your partner, they threaten whatever, your reputation. It is so, I mean, if I was in that situation, I'd probably be doing the same thing, right? If I got elected president, who knows? I'd probably be bombing Iran too. Like, if they have certain people that I care about with a gun to their head, be like, we're going to fuck them up. They're going to commit suicide or whatever, right? Like, yeah, it's totally easy to see why this would happen. It's like, to me, it's just simple logic. But I don't know. I think people just want to believe that the government's going to do the right thing for them because it's easy. Because then they can move along with their lives. Like they say, people don't want to be free. They want to be safe. But anyways, I just thought I'd rant about that for a little bit because I know it's going to be a big thing that everybody's talking about. I don't know. I think I'm just going to, like I said, I'll say my piece here and there when I feel like I need to, but that's it. Okay. Sorry for the shorter stream today. There wasn't really a whole lot to talk about. Like, the couple local things and the whole Iran thing, which, again, I'm not going to do a whole dissertation or whatever on that. Let me just see. I don't think I had anybody leave anything. Can I refresh? How do I refresh? Refresh chat. You're learning, Coleman. You're learning. Yeah, I don't have anything. Okay, guys. Tomorrow we will be doing a gaming live stream for real. I celebrating Juneteenth. 13%. Celebrating that. Doing a little live stream. I'm not going to tell you what. You're going to just find out tomorrow. It's going to be great. So yeah, tune in for that. I think I'm going to start around 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Check out the website, McCowstars.com, where you can find everything. We got Twitch, we got Twitter. Check out the Patreon. I am going to be putting more content. I know I keep saying that. I had a rough weekend this weekend, so I've been kind of having I have mental health issues, man. There's so many times I feel like I'm not fit for this because, like, I just have a bad day at work and I'm just so overwhelmed. I'm like, I don't even want to do this, but I still do it. So, but we are going to be doing at least one live stream tomorrow. I might do some more over the weekend just to kind of catch up from the little hiatus I had. So thank you everybody for supporting me throughout that and tuning in. You guys mean a lot to me. So you're the only reason I live. You're the only reason I wake up. You're the only reason I wake up in the morning. No, I'm kidding. I got other people. I might be down one dog, but I still got